What's good and what up? It's your brother Sam, and here at Viral Hip Hop News. Do me a favor, family, before we get started with the content. Y'all know what to do. Go up top and hit that like button. Alright, so ever since Sundance said they would premiere a documentary called Leaving Neverland, where Wade Robinson and James Safechuck were claimed to be victims of Michael Jackson being a pedophile, Michael Jackson molesting these two. Dan Reed, the producer of this quote-unquote documentary, claiming Michael Jackson out to be a monster. Then they had the HBO premiere of this quote-unquote docuseries, and then obviously that was followed up by Oprah Winfrey spoon-feeding the two lines and just 360-degree turning it into a negative spin toward Michael Jackson. Had people canceling Michael Jackson, we can't listen to his music, negative. And it seems as though ever since the documentary aired, or should I say the movie, whatever you want to call it, there's been a lot of holes and a lot of leaks in these three gentlemen's story that you see right here. Even though the mainstream media won't be as offensive as throwing that information out as they were in destroying Michael Jackson's name, but various platforms have been very outspoken in regards to Michael Jackson, not because we're fans and not because we're blind to the truth, but because we seek the truth, and there's a lot of holes in the story. We interviewed Brandy Jackson and Taj Jackson, the niece and nephew of Michael Jackson, to get their side of the story. We reached out to Wade Robinson and James Safechuck, that being the Uncensored Truth podcast, myself and Oh God, to no avail. And then as the weeks go on, we see more and more reports about this Dan Reed, the producer. I asked Taj and Brandy Jackson about Dan Reed, and I'll put that at the back end of this video. Y'all can stay tuned for that. But now the Sun is reporting that the director of Leaving Neverland, Dan Reed, has made a dramatic U-turn. That's right, a dramatic U-turn, and admitted that the information given is not all true. Now, in the documentary, James Safechuck claims that he was abused from 1988 until 1992 and was molested in the train station room within Neverland Ranch. Now, in the article, the Sun revealed that the room where Safechuck said he was abused, get this, wasn't even built till 1994. Now, in a response to this, Dan Reed, the filmmaker, admitted these dates are wrong in a tweet. Yeah, there seems to be doubt about the station date. The date they have wrong is the end of the abuse, he said. Now, on Twitter, author of Making Michael, Inside the Career of Michael Jackson, Mike Smallcombe, slammed Reed's apparent attempt to change the accuser's timeline. You can see right here, so Dan Reed 100 is now saying because the story has been debunked, suddenly the end of Safechuck's abuse was when he was 16, 17 rather than 14. It's a 3-year discrepancy. Just hold your hands up. Don't change the story. He continued. He also said, now this is what happens when you don't investigate properly. In an interview with the Mirror, Slocum called Reed's response absolutely embarrassing. All we see out here is a consistent attack toward the name Michael Jackson, toward his legacy, toward his estate. But now that we start seeing the holes and the leaks in the story, you see people getting very, very quiet. Like I alluded to and like I dropped on on Viral Hip Hop News a couple days ago, Oprah Winfrey has retracted all of her statements in regard to the Leaving Neverland quote-unquote docuseries. You don't see anything on her Twitter feed anymore. You don't see anything on YouTube promoting clips of what Wade Robinson and James Safechuck said. You will hear Todd Jackson and Brandy Jackson go into the relationship that Dan Reed has with Michael Jackson, and let me go ahead and tell you right now, it's not a long one, it's not much at all. They went on to say that he doesn't even know him. So how can a director, how can someone that doesn't even know a man, not even do proper research, able to slam and destroy someone's legacy, someone's name? Taj and Brandy Jackson also got into detail with that, because you could say whatever you want about a dead person, you can't sue when someone is destroying a dead person's name. Now, if you were to talk about Taj, Brandy, or anybody else in the family in the documentary, then they would have a green light to do so, to sue for damages and things like that. So the family's hands are tied when it comes to this docuseries, but thank God the people are seeing the truth and really understanding that this is bullshit. The numbers doing absolutely terrible. And it was rumored at one point that Dan Reed was going to go ahead and highlight the 94 trial civil suit of Michael Jackson, and that also got debunked with numerous evidence coming out and destroying that claim as well. So shout out to the people out here really making this a hard time for people to destroy Michael Jackson's name It looks like people are looking foolish, more foolish and foolish by the day. And I think it's time, I know it's time for James Safechuck, Wade Robinson, Dan Reed, Oprah Winfrey, and whoever else is out here trying to destroy a man's name to apologize to the family, to the late Michael Jackson. And that's just my 1-2. Y'all can leave what you want, how you want it. Stay tuned to the back end of this video. Make sure you listen to the commentary, of Taj and Brandy Jackson, diving into the relationship between Dan Reed and Michael Jackson. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell for all the latest notifications of Sam Ant, CEO of Raw Hip Hop News. Not going to hold you any longer. Check us out on the Uncensored Truth podcast tomorrow evening, exclusively on the Uncensored Truth official channel. And I'm out of here, man. Enjoy the content. Peace. We hear something and see something about this documentary called Leaving Neverland. Talk about your first experiences in hearing about Leaving Neverland, the documentary.
So, my first experience with it, which I think is a little similar to Taj's, is, we didn't learn about this until it was announced at the Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
So it was more of a shock. It just was pretty sudden and very shocking. And, just waiting to see what it was that these boys were saying. Obviously from the trailers and the previews, we knew what the narrative was. So we were just preparing for a bunch of lies that we knew were coming our way.
Yeah, they pretty much hid it from everyone. And it was we were blindsided by it. No respect factor thrown in there at all. No heads up. No, do you want to, we want to get your side of it. They just basically, we found out just like everyone else.
Right. Now, how were you first introduced to Dan Reed, the director of the movie? And do you know his relationship to Michael Jackson at all, if he had one at all?
To my knowledge, he does not have one.
No, Dan found out, but Dan basically decided to do Leaving Neverland he was figuring out what he wanted his next big project to be. And he was looking at big names, and it came about, Michael Jackson and the Wade Robinson, Jimmy Safechuck civil trial that was thrown out, and basically decided he wanted to make his career off of that. And so he's still learning about Michael Jackson. The fans and the journalists that are doing their jobs are very much informing him about all the inconsistencies, but he did not do his homework, basically.
And I have to say, I feel like he's still learning about Wade and James as well.
Oh yeah, he is, but he's just already made his bed. So
exactly.
it's one of those things. He won't say it, but he is. He's been caught in a couple of lies himself, and so. The truth is slowly coming out there, but Dan definitely, we didn't know anything about Dan. Dan didn't know anything about us.
Now, what do you think is the motivation? Obviously we know it could be money. I heard you speaking on a few occasions, Taj, about a civil suit that appeals coming up, for what is the motivation between Wade Robson and Safechuck coming out with these allegations now after Michael's deceased? In your opinion?
In my opinion, well, definitely there's, as you said, there's the appeal coming up. That is very suspicious. They say they're not doing anything for money, but at the same time, they're suing for hundreds of millions of dollars. At the same time, it's always suspicious to me because it's always during a milestone of my uncle's. We had some tributes lined up, but now his 10-year anniversary, out the gate, they hit with this, and it's not a coincidence, in my opinion. This was planned in this way to tarnish him and to make sure that this 10-year anniversary becomes a negative cloud as opposed to a positive.
Now I hear that Brandy was actually dating Robson for 8 years. Can you speak on your relationship with him and how you know him and how far that goes back, if you may?
Yeah. So he and I met in approximately 1991. We had done a few shoots together, the Black or White video, as well as the LA Gear photo shoot. So that was when we had met. And my Uncle Michael, being gracious to both of us, Wade had developed a crush on me and had asked my uncle if he would set up a situation where we could get to know each other better. So we spent about a week together, myself and Wade's family.
Where?
At Neverland. Mm-hmm. So we all went there, spent, like I said, about 5 to 7 days. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that trip is when he asked me to be his girlfriend. So this was, you know, like 91, 92 at the latest, when we really became official and started dating. And this went on until about 2000 or 2001. So we spent our entire teen life together.
Yeah, which was left out of the documentary, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And something that was, I mean, we didn't watch the documentary, but after just doing a bunch of research, we know certain things were omitted and the narratives were steered and things like that. Brandy, I want to talk to you about Wade Robinson's 05 testimony. And it's going to lead me to a two-part question, because a lot of what the naysayers about Michael Jackson say after watching Leaving Neverland is why he had children in his room. One thing you guys cannot argue to me is why he had children in his room. So, Brandon, if you don't mind talking about that sworn testimony by Wade Robinson in 2005, and then speak on why your uncle had children in his room. And was it just young boys? Was it just more like a sleepover? Just speak on it.
Yeah. So, you know, they were like sleepovers, like slumber parties. And it's not that there were these boys just, you know, haphazardly in his room and spending the night with him. If there were kids there, there was usually multiple kids. And it was rare that he would share the bed with everyone. But, you know, occasionally everybody would just fall asleep watching movies. It was a very normal situation. There wasn't anything sinister about it. And in regards to Wade's testimony in 2005, is there something specific that you're referring to, or just the fact that he testified on behalf of him in general?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, he spoke on the whole room scene in general and said that you were in fact in the room with him, and that in fact that you were in relationship with him, things that weren't in the documentary. He had no wherewithal in saying at all. Right.
And that's part of the issue that I have with Wade's narrative. He didn't spend time with my uncle alone the way that he said he did. You know, my uncle, first of all, is a very busy man. So when Wade and myself and his family would go to the ranch multiple times a month, my uncle was never there. So it's not that Wade was just being taken away and spending some private special time with my uncle and nobody else was able to access him. My uncle wasn't even at the ranch. This was just time that we all spent together, you know, playing and relaxing at the ranch. So Wade's narrative of him being alone in this room with my uncle is not the way that it happened. And it really makes me sick that he paints it that way, to be honest with you.